Hello and welcome to part 2 on onboarding your brand new client. So in the previous video, we talked about how to do a discovery meeting and how to kind of help the sale along on booking your first client. So if you haven't already, go watch that video because this is going to help you a ton when you are creating your proposal. And as always, if you find this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. So personally, I think the best way to make a proposal is not by doing this, but it's by doing this. And why is that? Because it's going to give a lot of in-depth information for your client to see, wow, they are really researching and they really care, instead of just kind of fancy smancy pretty things that aren't really giving anything. Now, if you're a little bit strapped for time and you just want a template that just has everything in one place, I do have a social media manager bundle down below. It has a content calendar, proposal template, the discovery meeting question, some in-depth information on how to do your contracts, onboarding, and some bonus materials like red flags to look for when you are signing on a client, and all the information you need to have a smooth transition with your new client and to keep them long term. If you're not interested in purchasing anything, no worries at all. I do have free templates down below that you can check out as well, or as always, you can find all the information you need within these videos. So I'm just going to go through this proposal. This is just an example of what I do. You can make it however you want, but this will give you an idea of what kind of proposal you want to make. So the biggest thing that comes with proposals is making things customized to this business. So I always like to put the name of the business at the top and then prepared by, and then insert your name or the name of your business. Now there's 10 points that we're going to touch on. The first one is introduction. Here, I just like to describe what the business is, what it does, just in a simple paragraph. That way, it's just introducing everything perfectly. It's really professional. It's really clean, gives kind of an overview, but it's also going to signal to that client that you understand their business and you understand what they're looking for and the type of the business they have. And so when you're doing your discovery meeting, you really want to pay attention to keywords and certain words that they are repeatedly using when they're describing their business, and you want to insert them in throughout this whole thing, but especially in this first part. The second section is going to be your objectives. What are the goals of the business and how is social media going to get you that? Again, you have already talked about this in your discovery call meeting. And so, for example, here I have increasing bookings, build a community, showcase results, but it could be anything. It could be increase inquiries, increase views, increase followers, whatever goal that business has that you can control with social media, you put them in here. And we've talked about this before, how you do want to be really careful with guaranteeing anything, because if the business isn't running correctly and there's problems within the business itself, that's social media, no matter what you do, is not going to be powerful enough to overcome those problems. And so if there are internal problems within the business, social media is not going to be the fixing thing. Social media is supposed to be adding a pawn and kind of helping the growth continue forward. It's not there to be a band-aid. Social media isn't going to fix a dying business. So be really clear on that with the goals. These are our objectives. And then lay out specific things that you would do to be able to measure them directly in relation to social media. So for example, if you're increasing bookings, obviously you are going to get more clicks to the website. That's going to show you the traffic source is from Instagram or from TikTok or YouTube or wherever. But then obviously if it's by followers or engagement or growth or anything like that, that's really easy. That's something you can control and you can see. So it's going to be by views, shares, comments, likes, all that stuff. Number 3 is actually really, really important. And this is your target audience. This is the most important thing when it comes to anything with marketing, messaging, social media. Because if you don't know who you're trying to target and you don't know who you're selling to, there's no way you're going to be able to relate to them or get them to engage with you in your content. So you want to include a very in-depth analysis of who the person or persons are trying to reach. Sometimes businesses have multiple different target audiences. Sometimes it's younger generation and maybe it's the older generation, or, maybe it's both men and women. Maybe it's just women. Maybe it's just men. All that stuff you need to put in here. So we have demographics. So you could do women, their age, what do they value? You have the location, which is usually where the business is at and surrounding cities. Psychographics, which is really, 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 really important because because that's how you're going to get your messaging in line with them, is what are their values? Are they thinking about sustainability? Are they into music? Are they not, what kind of music are they interested to? What kind of values do they have? All these things are really, really important. And then obviously, what is their activity on social media? Are they spending more time on Instagram? Are they spending more time on TikTok? Are they spending more time on Pinterest or YouTube? Like what are they doing? And then what times are they on those platforms? Why are they on those platforms? What kind of content are they engaging with? What kind of accounts are they following? And what are they looking for when they go to a social media page? Or the kind of content, like what are they looking for and what are the things that they're going to engage with? I would dive really deep into that. You don't have to go super, super deep, but the deeper the better. I feel like you can't go too deep at all. And there are a lot of really great resources you can use. You can use HubSpot, you can use answerthepublic.com, and of course, ChatGPT. Now, the next section of the target audience is really, really important and is also going to really help you stand out for your potential client, which is the buyer's journey. Okay, this is where you're going to show how social media will influence and add value to their business by showing them the journey that their target audience is going to go through to where they will engage and buy from that business. And so I just go through it. I just go through the buyer's journey, which is the first step is the awareness stage. And I have just an example here of Sarah. She's a 30-year-old woman who is searching for a new salon, and she just moved to the state of New York. Here you'll see just an example of Sarah's journey, and you just do this for whoever and also focus on how your services will affect them. And that's really, really important because a lot of times people don't quite understand the role of social media, but when you map out the buyer's journey of this is the role of how you are going to increase loyalty, increase bookings, and overall reach the people you want to reach, and this is how you do it. So I would include that. Again, it is optional, but I would highly recommend doing that, just taking time, and it's also going to help you as a social media manager to start thinking as a social media manager and a marketer to really help them gain success. And then the fourth section is just content pillars. So there's just a couple examples here of just basic content ideas or content ideas you think would be good. I would focus on content that converts, where you have before and after transformations, which is a huge one, and really just highlighting how it makes people feel and the benefits. And then you can talk about the formats. Okay, what is it going to look like? Are we doing more photos? Are we doing more carousels? Are we doing more reels? Are we doing more TikToks? Are we doing long form? What kind of content formats are we doing? Are we doing stories? And then again, this gives the client an idea of what kind of content you're doing. And again, you can change this. This will probably change the more you work with them and you adjust and create a strategy, but this way you kind of are just mapping out. The next section is about the content creation process. So here you're just going to map out the ways that you are going to create content for them. So here I just have, there's dedicated content days. So that's going to be within the package, which will be at the end, but you're just kind of highlighting, okay, here are the days that we're doing this. Here, if you're doing a salon or if it involves like customers or clients in any way, obviously you want to get their consent. So I just included that. And then number 3, a content checklist. If you're working with the team and collaborating with them and you're not the one creating the content all the time and you have other people, you want to make sure there's a checklist and a plan of what kind of content you're making. And then maybe you're doing more collaboration. So reaching out to other accounts and businesses in the area to collaborate with them so that they post content as well that you can include and collaborate with. So those are just some examples. You can add or take away whatever you think. Those are just some ideas. And then I would include tools and equipment you'll use. So smartphone or good camera. I have my camera here that I use, and then I have my iPhone, or if they have any kind of equipment or specific equipment they want to use, you include that. And then maybe some editing apps. So, CapCut, Premiere Pro, Snapseed, Photoshop, whatever, Canva, all that stuff you can include there. And that's just to explain, this is what I'm going to be using for these types of things. This can also be a section where you can emphasize these are the tools that I'm going to use. And then next we have the performance tracking and reporting. So also really important, just highlighting, okay, this is how we're going to track our results, because like I said at the beginning, we want to focus on those goals. We need to the only way to achieve a goal is by tracking analytics and reporting on those numbers with them. And so I always do at least a monthly meeting with them, sit down, let's go over what's working, what's not, keeping them in the loop of everything, and also proving that you are doing what they hired you to do. And then I just mentioned we will adjust the strategy based on the numbers, the insights that are shown. Maybe within these monthly meetings, we strategize a little bit and look towards the future. If we have a holiday or a special event that's coming up, we can plan for that within our content strategy. And then number 7 is the client and freelancer relationship. This is also really important because you're not being hired as an employee. This will also be within the contract that you send them, but you just want to make it really clear on like what's their role and then what's your role as a freelancer, because you are collaborating together. Yes, they're hiring you. You're in charge of your own taxes and all that, finances and tools and all that stuff. They're just hiring you to come in. This is also really important to highlight, okay, who's going to be in charge of DMs, who's going to be in charge of engagement, who's going to be commenting, who is doing what, right? And so make sure to map that out. And obviously when you do the onboarding meeting, you can adjust and go over this. Make sure to include that. And then number 8 is the investment. So we have built up all this value through the discovery call meeting and then throughout this proposal. And now towards the end, now we're talking about numbers and how much it's going to cost. So I would recommend giving them 3 different package options. So I just included these as examples. So I would just determine, how much do you think you're worth per hour? How much would you be willing to get paid per hour for your work? And so, if you're working 20 hours per month and you want to make $2,000 in a month, for example, then that means that you value yourself as at $100 per hour. Really figure out, okay, how much time is this going to take me per month? How many hours per month am I going to spend on this? And then how many dollars per hour do I want to be worth, if that makes sense? Full transparency, my first client was $400 a month. That's very low, but it was my very first client ever and I did a really good job. And so from there, I was able to increase that. So do whatever you feel you think is best. Don't overshoot too much, because you'll have a little bit of imposter syndrome because you're not worth that yet. And so you really want to just be fair and honest, but also don't sell yourself too short either, okay? So here we just have 3 different package options. So the first one, a lot of times businesses, they'll have a team. So for example, one of my clients is a salon. And so how that works is if I go in 1 day a month to batch content, obviously we're not going to have all the services going on, right? They're going on every day throughout the month. And so we have a team who will go and film during the week and during the month whenever there is an interesting service or something to showcase, because they're already there. Then they send those to me or the social media manager, and then it gets edited, right? So that's kind of what the first one is. I just want to show that because I think that that's really important to show, because don't be afraid to customize these things, right? And I've had a couple clients where they will go and film and then send the content. They don't necessarily need you to go and film for them. So if you do film, obviously that's going to take more time and maybe a couple days depending on the business. And then you're going to increase the price by how many platforms you're going to be posting on, how many pieces of content you're going to be creating every week and every month. Maybe just add in a couple extra things, like engagement or stories or whatever it may be. And then I would also include just at the bottom, what's it for? A lot of times you're kind of pushing the client to a specific package that you want them to. They might do the highest one, but they're most likely going to do either the lowest package or the middle one. And so at the bottom, I just like to do ideal if X, this is what you're working on. This is, if you want a hands-off experience, this is what you want. Kind of focusing on the features versus benefits. Features are what it is. Benefits are what it does for the person. And so the features are, for example, the $1,500 a month one social media platform, posting 3 times a week, you got captions, complete editing, and then monthly report. Again, this is just an example. Okay, you can add more, take away, whatever. The benefit is ideal if you want the hands-off approach to content creation with professional content production and posting. Again, the hands-off approach, that's the benefit. That's what it does for them. And that makes it click in their mind. So I would definitely do that, because then it's also personalized and they feel like they're making the decision when you're pointing them to the one you want. And then at the bottom, always mention that your contracts are going to be including a certain amount of time. Don't do month to month, because a month is not long enough to see results. And then whatever cancellation policy you want. Let me know if you want a more in-depth video on contracts and cancellations and all that stuff. And then number 9, pretty simple. Just go through the timeline, what it would look like first week, second week, third week. Definitely give yourself enough time to prep, okay? I would definitely put in time of researching and coming up with ideas before. And then also the filming the content, editing, all this stuff, because it does take time. And then number 10 is just the next steps. You want to walk them through, review this proposal. Next, we want to schedule an onboarding meeting. The onboarding meeting is when you finalize everything and you agree on the fine print, you change some things in the proposal or contract, and then you have a client. And here you also want to emphasize that once the contract is signed and the invoice is paid, that's when you start working. And then you just send it off to them with a nice little message of, hey, it was so nice to meet you. I'd love to work together. Let me know if you have any questions. But if not, no worries, right? So really low pressure. And that is the proposal. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments or things that you have found really helpful down below. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.